Seattle, Washington, April 15, 2015, 7:22 p.m. The city outside Dr. Alistair Finch's office was a symphony of drizzling rain and distant sirens, a familiar soundtrack to his late-night sessions. But tonight, the only sound was the soft whir of his vintage tape recorder, a comforting anachronism in his otherwise modern practice. Alistair was meticulous, a man who found order in the chaos of the human mind. His shelves were lined with leather-bound books and, more importantly, rows upon rows of cassette tapes, each one a neatly labeled archive of a patient's journey. He'd just finished his last session and was tidying up, his thoughts already drifting toward a warm meal and a quiet evening. As he straightened a stack of files, his eyes caught a single cassette lying askew on his desk. It was unlabeled. This was unusual. Alistair never left a tape unlabeled. He picked it up, feeling the cool plastic in his hand. Curiosity, a trait he usually reserved for his patients' narratives, pricked at him. He slid the tape into the recorder and pressed play. A hiss filled the room, the familiar sound of blank tape. Alistair was about to stop it, dismissing it as a mistake, when a voice emerged from the static. It was a man's voice, calm and measured, but with an undercurrent of something Alistair couldn't quite place. Resignation. "It's going to happen tonight," the voice said, startlingly clear. "Around midnight, I won't see the sunrise." Alistair froze. He didn't recognize the voice. It wasn't any of his current patients, nor any from his recent past. He rewound the tape and listened again. The words were the same, delivered with an eerie certainty. "I'll be driving home, taking the bridge. A car will lose control. It's a blue sedan. It will cross the median." Alistair's heart began to pound. This wasn't a confession of suicidal intent. It was a prediction, a prophecy spoken with chilling detail. He leaned closer to the speaker, straining to hear more. The voice continued, "There's nothing to be done, Doctor. Some things are just set in motion. This session, this is just an echo. It's for you to find, to know." The tape clicked, followed by silence. Alistair felt a cold sweat form on his brow. A session that never happened. He checked his calendar for April 15th. His last appointment had ended at 7 p.m. The tape player's counter showed it had been recording for only a few minutes, right around the time he was alone in his office. He frantically searched his records, looking for any patient, past or present, who might fit this voice, this premonition. He found nothing. The man had mentioned a name, though, just once, whispered so faintly Alistair almost missed it. "Tell Eleanor. I'm sorry, Eleanor." The name meant nothing to him. The night wore on. Alistair couldn't shake the feeling of dread. He considered calling the police, but what would he say? That an anonymous voice on a mysterious tape predicted a car accident. They'd think he was losing his mind. The rational part of him, the therapist part, told him it was a prank, a very elaborate and cruel one. But the human part of him was terrified. The clock ticked past midnight. Alistair was still at his desk, the silence of his office now feeling heavy, oppressive. He stared at the tape recorder as if it were a venomous snake. He tried to work, to distract himself, but the man's calm, prophetic voice echoed in his mind. He finally packed his briefcase around 1 a.m. The city now quiet, the rain having subsided. The drive home was tense. Every pair of headlights in his rearview mirror made him jump. He deliberately avoided the bridge the voice had mentioned, taking a longer, winding route through the city's deserted streets. The next morning, Alistair arrived at his office, exhausted but relieved. It must have been a prank. Nothing had happened. He'd let his imagination get the better of him. He made coffee, the morning ritual a comforting anchor to reality. As the coffee brewed, he saw the local newspaper on his welcome table. The headline hit him like a physical blow: "Fatal midnight collision on the Aurora Bridge." His hands trembled as he read the article. A blue sedan had crossed the median, striking a vehicle head-on. The driver of the other car, a man named Arthur Gable, was pronounced dead at the scene. His photo was there, a face Alistair had never seen before. The article mentioned he was survived by his wife, Eleanor. Alistair stumbled back into his office, his coffee forgotten. He felt dizzy, the room seeming to tilt. It couldn't be real. Coincidence. A horrifying, statistically improbable coincidence. He had to be sure. He needed to hear the voice again, to compare it, to find some flaw in his memory. With a shaking hand, he walked to the recorder. The same unlabeled tape was still inside. He hesitated for a moment, his finger hovering over the play button. Then, he pressed it. He expected to hear the same calm, resigned voice from the night before. He expected the same prophecy. But the sound that erupted from the speakers was not a voice. It was a scream. A raw, guttural scream of pure terror and agony. It was the sound of twisting metal, of shattering glass, the horrific cacophony of a violent impact. And underneath it all, a man's final, choked gasp. It was Arthur Gable's voice, not predicting his death, but experiencing it. The tape was playing the very moment of his demise. Alistair scrambled backward, knocking over his chair and crashing against the bookshelf. The tapes, his archives of human pain, rained down around him. But none of their stories were as terrifying as this one. The screaming from the recorder continued, a looped echo of a man's last moments. It was the same tape. He was certain of it. But the recording had changed. How? It was impossible. He hadn't recorded over it. The tape had been in the machine all night. It was as if the tape itself was alive. As if it had captured not just a premonition, but the event itself, updating its contents in real time. Alistair finally managed to lunge forward and rip the tape from the machine, his breath coming in ragged sobs. He stared at the small plastic object in his hand. It felt warm, almost humming with a malevolent energy. This wasn't a record of a session. It was something else entirely, a conduit, a doorway. He thought of the voice's last words. This session? This is just an echo. It's for you to find. To know. He now understood. He was meant to find it. He was meant to bear witness. But why? Was this a warning? A curse? Dr. Alistair Finch never practiced again. He left his office that day and never returned. The practice, with its rows of tapes and leather-bound books, was abandoned. But the legend of the therapist's tape lingered among the city's storytellers. They say that sometimes therapy reveals more than just the secrets of the mind. Sometimes it opens a door to something far, far older. And once that door is open, you can never be sure what might step through. Thanks for tuning in to our story tonight. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales that question the reality we think we know. Stay safe and always check what you're listening to.